Udah kedengeran kan ya? Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
It is my distinct honor and privilege to welcome you all to this seminar on the innovations practices in Indonesia and Philippines. It is the 11th of regular seminar of our research center here in Green. We call it ELABORASI. And I am Syafri Rizal Maludin, you can call me Rizal, as the moderator for today's event. I'm thrilled to be among such esteemed speakers in the field of innovation. And I have been dealing in innovation technology since I graduated from technology innovation from University of Queensland, Australia, and working the innovation field market from research center. Today, we have the opportunity to learn from the experience, share insights, and explore the pathways that can further enhance our innovation ecosystem. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to introduce our distinguished speakers for today's event. First, we have Mr. Anugrah Yuka Asmara from Research Center for Public Policy, National Research and Innovation Agency. And second, we have Dr. Elizabeth Milo from Poverty Agency at President Office of the Republic of the Philippines. Ladies and gentlemen, we will begin with opening remarks from Ibu Yanuar Farida Wismayanti, the head of the Research Center for Public Policy. Following the opening remarks, we will hear from our first speaker, who will share his expertise on innovation and sustainable development in Indonesia. Next, we have Dr. Elizabeth Milo, who will give presentations about innovation and poverty alleviation. Each presentation will be 30 minutes long. After the presentations, we will open the floor for Q&A session for 20 minutes. So for the last 2 hours, we will discuss about the innovations. So I now invite Ibu Farida Yanuar Wismayanti for opening remarks. The time is yours.
Ya. Halo, sudah masuk ya. Tapi suaranya ini double echo. Ada yang nyala. Tes, oke. We can start now. Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, everyone, especially for our guest speaker today, Dr. Elizabeth Melo from National Anti-Poverty Commission, Office of the President of the Republic of Philippines, and also all of the participants that already joined in this room or maybe in the Zoom meeting. May we always get the blessing and health today, so we can meet today to learn and discuss with our Elaborasi special. With the topic of I think this is the opportunity to learn from experience in Indonesia and also in Philippines on how to practice the issue on reduce the poverty or innovation on how to develop the poverty program in Indonesia. As already know, based on the latest, I think Philippines and Indonesia also have the same issues on poverty, because based on the latest data from BPS Indonesia, there were 25 5.22 million people living below the poverty threshold in Indonesia in 2024. So I think, which is maybe around 9.03% of the national population. So I think this is the big issue also. And maybe today we can also get the information or sharing information from our guest speaker about the social problem also, including the poverty in Philippines. So we can learn on how they have another program or program on how to reduce the poverty in Indonesia, also in Philippines. And also our guest speaker today, Dr. Elizabeth Milo, and also Mas Yuka from Research Center for Public Policy. We can, I hope they will sharing about their experience about on how they have some program that focus on reduce the poverty and development issue for special. And yeah, I'm happy to get our guest speaker. So I think this is not the first meeting maybe. So I hope for the next we also have some collaboration for joint research or another joint collaboration with us. And thank you for all of participants that already come and join for this discuss in this evening. So for your attention, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I wish you have a good afternoon and happy discussion. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. The next speaker is Pak Yuka. Pak Yuka is from the Research Center for Public Policy in BRIN. We already know him. He's my coordinator of the research community group here. And he graduated from the University of Brawijaya for Bachelors of Public Administrations and Master of the Administration of Public Policy from University of Indonesia. So you have 30 minutes to deliver your presentations. The time is yours, Mayuka.
Okay, thank you, Rizal, Dr. Safrizal. Good afternoon. Bukapus, Head of Research Center of Public Policy, and my colleagues, Elizabeth Milo, or Dr. Elizabeth Milo. I will present in short about the innovation in Indonesia, but I will discuss about the conceptual how innovation shifting from business to the public sector. I will share my presentation. I think this topic is interesting for the current decades because many government offices and public sector innovate to make a new knowledge or to make a new value to increase the economics, the social, and maybe culture and political structure. That is why the topic of innovation from business to the public sector is presented today. I'm Yuka, the moderator, told me about I'm a researcher at Research Center for Public Policy and in National Research and Innovation Agency of Indonesia. Table of contents of my presentation, we start from the innovation definition from business perspective, and then we go to the basic characteristic of innovation, and then we have a discussion about core innovation in business sector. We have four typologies of business innovation, and then we discuss about innovation shifting from business to public, and we define about the innovation in terms of public perspective, and what are the characteristics of innovation in public perspective. And we have 8 typologies of public sector innovation, and we need to know about what are the difference of the innovation in public and in business sector. We have many definition about the innovation, starting from the United Nations and Martin, the expert of the innovation, and Kim and Nelson from Korean, Kulman et al., and Rogers from the Division of Innovation, and from OECD. Innovation basically is an application of knowledge and new technology in the market. It is a linear process by which innovation is pulled by technology driven and pushed by market driven. The other definition about innovation is a firm capability in developing and introducing new products or technologies to the market. Innovation is a result or results of R&D activities that conducted in industries, universities, and R&D institutions. And the third, innovation is a complex process, non-linear process. It involves academician, business and government actor, as well as social organizations. Each actor has a respective role in supporting innovation. They are collaborated in a special mechanisms yielding forms of innovation. If we refer Rogers, based on the division of innovation theory, innovation is not only new knowledge, not absolutely new knowledge or new things, but it can be defined ideas as a newness with people or institution in a specific area. Innovation is not truly new in the world, but it can be existing in a previous area. It can be new in other areas. But that is why the concept of transmitting or diffusion of innovation is a key of the division of innovation that Rogers revealed. And the last, we discussed about innovation that refer to the OECD. It is the classic definition of innovation. There are 4 innovation types: innovation on products, marketing, business process, and the last, organizations. The basic characteristic of innovation in public sector, in business sector, innovation is a newness plus economic value. Innovation is based on new and existing knowledge, and innovation is aimed to win competition. It is the basic characteristic of innovation if we view innovation from the business perspective. Refer to OECD, Eurostat 2005. There are 4 innovation types in business sector, starting from business process innovation, new methods or ways in producing or delivering products and services, and then product innovation, new introduction of product and services, or improve existing products or services, and then organization innovation, new ways in managing organization, such as coordination practice, external relation institution, and the last, marketing innovation, is significant change on or improvement in product designs, packaging, product placement, or price promotion. These are examples how to innovate, how to previous activities or previous product to be innovative products. The first one, product innovation. If we see or we know about the gudeg rice from Yogyakarta, few years ago, maybe gudeg rice is provided only in the table of the restaurant when we visit Jogja. But now we can taste, we can bring gudeg Jogja in the can. We can bring this food, go anywhere, go somewhere. So it is innovation in product. And the second, innovation and business process. If the previous one, if we use the post mail, we must visit post office to send the letter or a letter, and then we send a letter via electronic transmission. It is innovation in process business, and we have organization innovation. In the pandemic of coronavirus, we shift from the work from office to be work from home. And the last, marketing innovation, it is interesting promotion, how to introduce new product, or maybe not new, but old product, but the packaging, the promotion is new. For example, we use plastic to be cup tea. It is the innovation in marketing. For innovation that I presented before, refer to OECD, are the basic for to public for to innovation in public sector. We know product innovation, business process innovation, marketing innovation, organization innovation are parts of innovation that goal 2008 say that all innovation from on business sectors such as new products, new production process, new method, and new marketing and organization can be applied into public sector organization. We will discuss the characteristic or the typologies of the public sector innovation refer to this definition, because if we refer the journals or scientific journals about the innovation in public sector, product innovation, business process innovation, marketing innovation, and organization innovation are the principle or concept of innovation. That is why we can adopt this type of innovation to be public sector innovation. We have many definition of public sector innovation. I think Windroom and Hartley are the popular conceptor or author to introduce public sector innovation, refer to the types of innovation in business sector. Service innovation, for example, service innovation, a newness of product and services resulted of public organization. And then we have public service delivery innovation, a newness of mechanism or way in delivering public services like procedures delivery. And we have administration and organization innovation, a newness of procedures, structure, and routine activities in delivering public services. And we have concept innovation, a new perception of direct organization and performance, such as a vision, mission, targets, objectives, organization strategy. And we also have policy innovation, a newness of policy instruments, policy direction, and how stakeholders or actors interact and collaborate each actor. And then we have systemic innovation, newness of organization mechanism or way to interact to other organization, public to public organization or public to private organization. And we have governance innovation, a newness of procedures and institutions to formulate and determine a policy and how to allocate resources to fulfill public interests. And the last, we have rhetoric innovation, a newness of language, symbol, or concept which are used to mobilize support from stakeholders and public as perceived importantly and significantly. The basic characteristic of the innovation in public sector, we have three principles. The first, innovation is a newness plus social culture, economics, politic value, not only economic value in the public sector innovation. And then innovation is based on new or existing knowledge or previous experiences. This is why if we learn about public sector innovation, there are many experiences from last activities, and then the experiences are adopted by the government agencies in the another area. And innovation is aimed to provide social welfare and equity, efficient and effective public services, and improving the government performance. I think there are the basic principle of the public sector innovation compared to the business innovation. For example, in Ministry of Health, we have Sehatpedia application. Sehatpedia is an application in health services of Indonesian government. If we want to talk to the doctor, even to know about the healthcare, we can access the Sehatpedia. And also we have public service innovation, like in Banyuwangi Regency, we have Gancangaron. Gancangaron is innovation in delivering public health services. We do not we do not need to queue to take a medicine in the hospital, but we can wait the medicine from the hospital, and there are drivers, Gojek drivers, to delivery medicine from the hospital to the houses of the patient. And then innovation of administration and organization, we can work from anywhere, not only from office. And we have innovation of concept in Philippines, for example. There are vision and mission of the President of Philippines to direct all the policies of Philippines. And then we have innovation of policy, for example, to respond climate change policy. And we have innovation systemic of system innovation, for example, ASEAN collaboration in reducing climate change. We have governance innovation. We make a public-private partnership among institution, and then we have an example from the South Korea, Semal Undang. It is the spirit of the Korean Rural Development Program. It is the symbol language that government of South Korea introduced to the people in Korea. And the last presentation, we can see what are the differences of the business innovation and public sector innovation. The first responsible in the first business innovation responsible to shareholders and market consumers, but public sector innovation responsible to stakeholders and citizens. And the second differentiation, the politics is less factor to influence innovation practices in business sector. But in public sector innovation, politics is present to influence innovation practices. And the third, in business innovation, profit or economics is the main purpose. In innovation of public sector, the main purpose is social equity, politics, welfare, not only economics. In business innovation, we know about many competitors competing with other business organizations. While in the public sector innovation, no competitor, but public agency is the single authority to provide the best public services to the citizens. And the five, in business innovation, there are indicators of achievement. It is very clear. For example, increasing profit, venture, and rapid enterprises. While in public sector innovation, the indicator of achievement are vague or complex. We have many considerations ranging from socio-economic, politics, and culture. If in business innovation, we know about the good and service protection and intellectual property rights, while in public sector innovation, goods and services should be distributed widely without protection. The possibility is public agency can emulate the best practices that public government or public agency conducted innovatively. That is why there is no protection or property right in the public sector innovation, because each public agency must be innovative and must learn from the previous practices. And the seven, in innovation of business, without innovation, enterprises will decrease or go to bankruptcy. But in public sector innovation, without innovation, a state or government is still existing with sluggish performance. And the X in business of innovation, innovators are easily identified. They get incentive from company. Contrarily, in the public sector innovation, innovators are hard to be identified. Incentive for innovators are very rare. It is the problem. in public sector innovation, including Indonesia. Even though Indonesia have innovations in public sector, but it is very hard to provide incentive for the innovator themselves, because there are many regulation, there are many time, there are many uh, bureaucrat level that I think it will be obstacle to provide incentive to the innovators, particularly innovator in the level of street level bureaucrat or staff or operator and many more. And the nine, business innovation, the culture is triggered by CEO, staff, and competition environment. In public sector innovation, innovation culture is mainly triggered by the top leaders or crisis. If there is no top leaders who want to innovate, I think it is impossible to innovate in public sector. And then if there is no crisis to push or uh, uh, to influence government, I think it is impossible to innovation. That is why uh, in public sector innovation, if we want to be innovative, we must have uh, leader who leaders who have innovative mission, vision, and mission to the future. And maybe innovation in public sector can be happen if there are crises, or if there are like the society upheaval, like that. And the last, in business innovation, the many business organization imitate of innovation, the less profit they get in business sector. Contrarily, in the public sector innovation, the many public organization imitate of innovation, the more success innovation in public sector. I think the differences of the innovation between business and public is clearly presented in this slide. But we can learn about how public sector innovation can influence and can provide maximum benefit in Indonesia and the Philippines. It will be explained by my colleagues, Dr. Elizabeth Milo, particularly in the Philippine case. I think it is enough my presentation, Pak Rizal. I hope you can enjoy and get more information from this presentation. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Pak Yuka, for the insightful presentations. So innovation is very sexy, actually. It's change and that very dynamics. So it used to be that we heard only about how to make science to public, to science to business, development science to business. Now it's from the business to public sector. So everything is very dynamic. If you follow the discussions in business group or in the LinkedIn, so sometimes the conflict in the community or the groups is in this expert group about the innovation and how it is work and how it is to contribute to the social is very interesting. So thank you, Pak Yuka, for the presentations. Now we follow to I invite Ibu Dr. Elizabeth Milo to give her presentations. But before that, I would like to read the biographical sketch. The sign of the combined lead indigenous families in the Cordilleras and Mindanao. I'm sorry if I'm spelling mistakenly. Ms. Elizabeth Milo has over 18 years of combined executive management and leadership experience in development, public policy, strategic defense and security, information and communications technology, and electric power industry. She received academic and professional trainings at the University of Philippines, Diliman, University of Sao Paulo in Brazil, the East-West Center in Honolulu, Hawaii, USA, International Institute of Humanitarian Law in San Remo, Italy, and most recently in Jakarta, Indonesia, for a prestigious UNITAR Leaders for a Free and Open Indo-Pacific 2024. Trained as a development economist, Elizabeth advocates for the use of innovations in poverty alleviation and building climate resilience for coastal communities, as well as durable solutions for internally displaced persons. As an academic and policy advisor, she served as distinguished subject matter expert on various transnational defense, security, and peace concerns. In example, PCPE and Women, Peace, and Security. Elizabeth is the founder of from GAIDA, which aims to build trust, friendship, and understanding and cooperation by bridging the youth and students in different geographically isolated and disadvantaged area, or GAIDA. She is currently the president of the East-West Center Alumni Asia Pacific Leaders Program chapter, representing over 700 leaders from at least 50 countries around the world. Miss Elizabeth Milo is proud Philippine Army reservist. Yeah, that's a very difficult sketch of Dr. Elizabeth Milo. And now the time is yours. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much for the very kind introduction. Dr.
Let's take it back. Let me go back to the first slide, please. Apologies for the technical difficulties. Okay. Again, I will be making a presentation on innovations in public service delivery, with particular focus on disaster risk reduction and poverty nexus in the context of internal displacement in the Philippines. So the scope of my presentation is as shown. First, I will be sharing with you the innovation policy in the Philippines, and I would follow it up with the internally displaced persons, or IDP, protection efforts in the Philippines. And the third one would be my project proposal for the free and open Indo-Pacific 2024 that has recently been concluded by the UNITAR. Okay, so just to give you an idea of how the Philippine innovation happened. So with the passage of Republic Act 11293, or the Philippine Innovation Act in 2019, we were able to adopt innovation as a vital component of the Philippines' development policies to drive inclusive development. And we also use this to promote growth and national competitiveness of our medium small enterprises in the country. Next, please. So this is basically the policy anchor, and based on the legislation, the act, or the Philippine Innovation Act, we define innovation as the creation of new ideas that result to the development of new or improved products, processes, or services, which are then spread or transferred across markets. So I'm sure most of you, if not all, have already seen the Global Innovation Index. And this essentially is a ranking of the innovation capabilities and results of world economies. And so you have by institutions, human capital and research, infrastructure, market sophistication, business sophistication, the knowledge, or the KM, as well as the creative outputs as the 7 pillars. And you would see in the next slide
why there was all of a sudden an impetus or a need for the Philippines to adopt an innovation policy and an innovation mindset. Because based on the GI output subindex and 2019 GDP per capita, the Philippines falls behind or below the curve. So what followed is, next slide, please. Okay, so in the recent State of Philippine Innovation Ecosystem, you would see here the ranking, the Innovation Index values for ASEAN nations. And you would see as highlighted Philippines. And among the pillars, you would see as highlighted the Philippines actually excel in the researchers and the gross expenditure on R&D as percentage of GDP, and also in the QS university rankings. And so this, among the other pillars, essentially much of the government efforts really were focused on building pillars 1, pillars 3, and 4 in the as of recent. Next slide, please. Okay, so now I'm sharing with you the long-term development plan, the vision of the Philippines, which is called Ambisyon Natin 2040. This has been coined in the previous administration, which has then been adopted by the current administration of President Bongbong Marcos Jr. And it says here, matatag, maginhawa, at panatag na buhay para sa lahat. A peace, prosperous, and stable life for all Filipinos. Next slide, please. Okay, so the Philippine Development Plan, also for 2023 to 2028, in Chapter 8, basically outlines advanced research and development, technology, and innovation. Again, this is anchored on the Innovation Policy Act of the Philippines. And you would see here that at the topmost level is economic and social transformation for a prosperous, inclusive, and resilient economy. And at the bottom, you would see there, the key feature here is at the end of it and at the core of it is that every Filipino should have an entrepreneurial mindset. So there's already a shift. So that is essentially what we are trying to achieve with the innovation policy throughout the innovation ecosystem. Next, please. Okay, so innovation governance for dynamic innovation ecosystem. And as I already mentioned earlier, so really there's a shift in the mindset to entrepreneurship, along with creating, capacitating, or building the capacities, and also promoting collaboration from the government and also the non-government, CSOs, the academia, and other international and local organizations who are focused on development. So next, please. Okay, so you might confuse this with the SDGs, but in fact, it is pretty much aligned with the SDGs. And this is what you're looking at is the innovation priority areas based on the plan. So we have learning and education, health, food and agribusiness, finance, manufacturing and trade, transport and logistics, public administration or governance, security and defense, energy, and blue economy. So now we turn to the phase 2. And just so we are on equal footing and we understand each other, just to give you a context. For those of you who have not been to the Philippines, so you will also be able to have a comparative knowledge or background of how Indonesia and the Philippines are similar and different as well. So essentially, Indonesia and the Philippines are among the world's longest coastlines. Yeah. And we are also blessed with immense natural resources and are located in the Pacific Ring of Fire. And both countries have at least or approximately 60 to 75% of our population, especially from the poor and marginalized sectors such as farmers, fisher folks, indigenous peoples, women and children. Most of them are vulnerable to climate-induced disasters as they live in geographically isolated areas and have limited access to resources and basic services needed to recover from these disasters and calamities. And projections from the World Bank emphasize that coastal communities would become even more vulnerable without climate adaptation interventions. So we do have policies. Next slide, please. Okay, maybe take it back first. Thank you. So what is important here is that we do have policies on disaster risk reduction to ensure that human rights are upheld and sustainable development is promoted even in times of disasters and calamities. However, and this is really what is very important to know, both the Philippines and Indonesia, well, we recognize autonomy of the local government. So there's autonomy at the local level. And as such, well, localizing these policies on coastal protection and human security have been complex and challenging, while innovations and technology remain costly. The next slide, please. Okay, so now what you are looking at is the poverty profile of the Philippines. And as you can see, based on what I mentioned earlier, based on poverty incidence among the basic sectors, and I showed this is shown in a yearly, yes, on a year-on-year, but focus on 2015, 2018, and 2021, and you would refer to the yellow bar for the 2021 values, and you would see there that the poorest sectors belong to the fisher folks, farmers, followed by children and the rest. But what's important also to note here is that in the Philippines, since we are also archipelagic, similar to Indonesia, most of the people, especially in the countryside and in coastal areas, are both fisher folks and farmers. Because in our country, these sectors are also seasonal. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we are taking a deep dive on the issue of internal displacement. And based on the 2022 UNHCR Global Trends Report, there are at least 108.4 million forcibly displaced persons worldwide. And you would see there that 62.5 million are IDPs. Next slide, please. And from the Philippines, you would see there, I would show this on your right side. If you're looking at the right, you would see displacement in the course of 2024 for the first quarter. And for the first quarter alone, about 770,400 estimated total number of individuals or persons have been displaced. And this is just in Mindanao alone. So you can just imagine with at least 20 typhoons that visit our country, and we are also very vulnerable and susceptible to other variable hazards, which are induced by climate change. So these numbers rapidly change, and the number of internally displaced persons or IDPs actually increase. And as of September 2023, there are at least 137 individuals who are still displaced in Mindanao alone. So this does not even include internally displaced persons in Luzon and Visayas, which are the other two main islands of the Philippines. And we attribute this displacement to mostly armed conflict, followed by disasters due to natural hazards, followed by the clan feud or rido, and the peace and order situation in the south. So these figures are just covering Mindanao, which is the southern island of the Philippines. Next slide, please. Thank you. So now part of the innovations, and as far as legislation or governance is concerned, is really the lobbying of an IDP bill. And I will just share with you in passing how the historical background or how this basically started. So it started as early as 2004 to 2006 when the first IDP bill was filed at the lower house of the Congress. And then in the 14th Congress, it reached the third reading at the House of Representatives, and the bill was filed or transferred to the Senate. However, it only remained at the committee level. During the 15th Congress, and this is something that the scenario we're in, we came very close, but it was vetoed by the president. And then in the 16th Congress, next slide, please. 16th Congress, pretty much like the same. It reached the third reading at the House of Representatives, or the lower Congress, and then a substitute bill was transferred to the Senate, but it was only up to the committee hearings. The same with the 17th Congress, deliberations were held. However, it remained at the committee level at the Senate. Now, at the 18th Congress, so both bills were filed, but however, still remained at the committee level. Now, at the 19th Congress, we are already at the 19th Congress. Next slide, please. And what we have now, since last year, is that we were able to approve the House Bill 8269, or the Rights of IDPs Act, at the lower level of the Congress, approved on third and final reading, and was transmitted to the Senate and referred to the Committee on Justice and Human Rights as the primary committee to tackle this. However, at the Senate, we have 5 bills, and this is still pending at the committee level. And we don't know, we recently had some changes at the Senate, and therefore this has been stalled. And why are we pushing for this legislation as an innovation of governance for IDP protection and durable solution? Because we really want the Philippines to be the first Southeast Asian country to pass an IDP law for the protection and promotion of the rights of IDPs in the entire country. And meanwhile, we also have ongoing efforts at the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region of Muslim Mindanao, because we recognize the autonomy of the southern part of the Philippines being BARM. And we are very close to also passing at the BARM level or at the parliament an IDP law. Next slide, please. Okay, so just to give you a ways forward, and also some of the innovations, the new ways of thinking, and the new processes that we are doing. First is we are really collaborating, and we continuously engage with the Congress, both at the national and also at the BARM Parliament, to fast track the passage and institutionalization of an IDP law. The second is we are really building the administrative and technical capacity, and also part of this is confidence building mechanisms to make sure that we are able to expand the base of support across levels of governance, from the national to the local. The third is, of course, we're lobbying for the support of local engagements to build the level of this, to bring down the level of discussion and gather real support at the local level, because again, we recognize the autonomy of the local government units. The fourth is we are also doing a lot of efforts for strategic engagements for the issuances of national, subnational, and sectoral resolutions and ordinances. To date, we have at least 11 LGUs who already adopted and passed their resolutions, and we also have the regional development councils who also issued resolutions in support of an IDP bill. The fifth is, of course, extensive partnerships really have to be forged, and also we put prime on multi-sectoral engagements, just so we would be able to build a support for the institutionalization of IDP protection and durable solutions. 6 is to make sure that we are operating on a whole of nation, whole of society approach, wherein the national government also engages with the civil society, non-government, the academia, the private sector, and other UN agencies. And to date, we received tremendous support from the UN system as a whole. And later on, I will be sharing with you some of the collaboration that we've been doing. And finally, is we need to ensure that we have adequate and appropriate and meaningful participation of the IDPs themselves in all aspects of policy formulation and review, and also in the implementation, monitoring, evaluation of all the policies, plans, and programs and activities that would be implemented in their localities. Next slide, please. Okay. So this is the third phase, and as I mentioned, we recently concluded the UNITAR's Leaders for a Free and Open Indo-Pacific, or FOIP. So last night, we were very privileged and honored to welcome and have with us the ambassador of Japan in Indonesia. And we also had our graduation ceremony yesterday. And just to give you a brief background on the project that I am implementing, currently rolling out, and as part of the innovations, is disaster risk reduction, or DRR, and poverty nexus in the context of internal displacement in the Philippines, mainstreaming the indigenous knowledge, systems, and practices into anticipatory action and innovations for poverty action in coastal cities at risk. Next slide, please. Thank you. So as I mentioned, this has been an ongoing effort and advocacy, and which we started last year. We were able to conduct multi-stakeholder capacity building and development on IDP protection, just to build awareness amongst the 14 basic sectors to which we cater. Because I am from the National Anti-Poverty Commission, and our main clients are the 14 basic sectors. Who belong to the poorest and the marginalized sectors in the Philippine community. And then we follow this issue with the mainstreaming of IDP protection action plans into the local poverty reduction action plans, which is also newly drafted. And I understand that the guidelines for the formulation of the LPRAP, as we call it, is still ongoing and is being finalized. So what we did was we were able to find the intersections
Okay. Yes. Terima kasih. Okay. What we strive to do was to make sure that the government sector and the basic sectors from the national, subnational to the local levels are all on equal footing, and that we're able to build a consensus that we indeed need this. And this has not been done before. And we were very fortunate to have the full support of the UN, of the United Nations. So you would see there the UNRCO resident coordinator, Gustavo Gonzalez, who even came to deliver the welcome remarks and the first quarter activity, along with the other officials of the UN system, who also joined with us on site and via Zoom. So essentially, what we're really doing here is continuing, the IEC, building awareness, and also getting the consensus and support of all the sectors in the Philippine community. And also, just this July 4th, because I was given a grant by the Asia Productivity Organization also, I was able to hold the first forum on innovations in public service delivery. And we featured the Philippine innovations with the theme Optimizing Benefits and Mitigating the Risks in the Philippine Digital Transformation. And part of this, and this, we also had representatives from the UN who gave us the overview of the innovation policy at the international level. Now, what I want to show to you is that in the Philippines, we have existing policies. In Indonesia, you also have it. However, there's the lack of consistency, standardization, clear operational complementation. So essentially operational gaps happening at for the implementation of the policies. And for Indonesia, we noted here, and our source is really from the World Bank report. There's a lack of integration also on the policies, plans, and programs at the national, subnational, local levels, which was exacerbated by political interventions. Second, essentially focuses on regulatory capacities. Essentially that we have weak regulation, or we have policies, but we are not able to fully enforce the policies or the laws, especially the salient provisions pointing to building the climate resilience in our communities, especially at the local levels where the poor and the marginalized sectors are. The third would be the limited access to funding. So we have climate security mechanisms, including technical advice in climate change mitigation, recovery, funding, and technology. However, we specify that while these technologies basically exist, these remain expensive. So now I'm showing that I'm proud to share with you. This was presented by a local government unit of Pangasinan, which is in the Luzon Island. And what you are looking at is, essentially innovations in disaster risk reduction vis-a-vis the indigenous practices. And because we have at least 110 ethno-linguistic cultural communities in the Philippines, it was really important for me, also as an indigenous person, to really capitalize on the indigenous knowledge systems and practices to drive the innovations in DRR. So whereas you would see on the right side, these are the innovations that are anchored essentially on Western technology, you would see the equivalent indigenous DRR systems that already exist. So we have the indigenous life vest, indigenous rain gauge, the indigenous bamboo siren, indigenous public address system that they basically use to this day. And essentially what they did was really to encourage people to know more about the indigenous knowledge systems and practices and find ways to innovate this. To build resilience as climate adaptation and mitigation processes in the country. Okay, so next, also as part of my output for the 4th 2024 Leaders for Free and Open Indo-Pacific, I was able to develop the concept of how to mainstream and a scale down and across LGUs or local governments. We call it the Project Lisa or Likha in Sigip. Likha is a local term for to make something, and Sigip is a local word which says to save lives. So to save lives. So what we have started, or at least at the concept level, is to how to really innovate the indigenous life vest following the IKSP or the indigenous knowledge systems and practices. And we are very proud of the textiles, the fabrics, the local indigenous plants that we have. And what you're looking at are some of the tapestry that we have. At the upper portion, that is the tapestry or the textile or the fabric that is woven by our indigenous Igorots. That's the indigenous tribes in the northern Philippines, and in the south, this is the textile that is woven by the Tausug cultural communities in Mindanao. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to also incorporate the designs into the indigenous life vest or other flotation devices, and this basically anchors on the Samabajao, the floating communities in the south, because most of the time they live, because of development, they are swamped by garbage. And so this particular project is targeted for them to provide sustainable livelihood, particularly for women, youth and students, and also for the out of school youth, and also for them to have a place in the community and not be treated as outcasts in a province like Sulu, wherein it is predominantly Kausuk. And we also want to encourage them to participate in building the development, the production, and other economic enterprises in the community. So this is built as a sustainable enterprise and a social enterprise for indigenous peoples. So that is the last slide. I would be very much happy to take in if you have any questions or clarifications. And again, maraming salamat and terima kasih, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. May, for your nice presentations. Thank you for inviting us for MVP.
Displaced persons.
Yeah. And it is internally displaced person, and also how you say that every Filipino should have an entrepreneurial mindset. It is very interesting. So now that we reach the Q&A station, I invite audience and in the Zoom, you can write the chat in the chat box, and also in this room. If you have questions, you can by raising your hands. It is both of the speakers are very inspiring. Like Pak Yuka also mentions about it is impossible to have innovations in the public sector. So it is kind of a big question. How could you say that it's impossible to have innovations in public sector? Because as far as we know that innovation is everywhere. So it is kind of strange, and maybe you can explain. But I think we should take the questions from the audience first after the discussion, because probably after the question from the audience, we can discuss about further discussions. Okay. Is there any want to ask the questions? You can raise your hands. Well, I will check in the in the chat. Oh yeah, let's see. In our presenting list online, you can see the
Yes, sir.
yes already.
Yes.
Okay. We have a question from Gali Yogaswara. Is it? Oh, I think you better just ask question directly to Dr. Elizabeth or Matika. Please.
Yeah. Yeah, my question is from the government. So you mentioned about the climate action, the temporary reduction, and do the government have priority on which sectors they should prioritize? And what are the trade-offs between choosing the which action that the government should do?
Okay, thank you so much for that very insightful question, Gali. And incidentally, that is also part of the dynamics that we have in the Philippine context. Because as I mentioned, this is part of the innovations that we're trying to mainstream, especially for the protection of internally displaced persons. So about the question of whether the government or how the government of the Philippines prioritize climate action, disaster risk reduction, and displaced persons and poverty reduction. So that is really the nexus of it is something that has been very challenging. because we do not have a law that basically protects the IDPs or the internally displaced persons in the Philippines. What we have are guiding principles at the UN level. Yes, so essentially what I'm trying to say here is that even if we have a policy for the DRMA, the Disaster Risk Reduction Management Act of the Philippines, even if we have this, there's very limited focus, if at all, for internally displaced persons. That's why it's very important, because the Philippines is very vulnerable, and based on the WDR, it is the first most vulnerable country in the world for disasters. And so we really need this legislation. And about how do we manage this? Of course, naturally, there would always be trade-offs. As I mentioned, of course, as you can understand, for the IDP communities or for the IDPs who would be transferred to another locality, of course, the LGU or the local government unit would focus and prioritize the needs of its own constituents. That's why we are really advocating and lobbying for the LGUs to have a resolution, so they would also be building their capacities for their plans and programs, and also projects if you have, just so they would be able to also increase their capacity to accept IDPs from other LGUs should disaster hit. And what is important about the Philippines is that most of the displacement happen in a proactive manner, meaning if a community has been affected by a calamity or a disaster, they are displaced, they move to another local government unit. And then if and when another disaster or a calamity happens in that LGU, so they would be displaced again. So most of the displacement has been ongoing for a long time, like very long time. Some have been displaced for more than 20 years, some 10 years. Some, they didn't even go back. They've just moved on, sadly, because they do not feel that the government really cares about the displacement. And they see and feel that the government is really not doing something that is sustainable and what we say as durable solution. And so they just try to look for ways to survive. And that is really a sad realization. And given that now a lot of the climate-induced disasters are happening, and so we are really pushing for the institutionalization of an IDP law or an IDP Act in the country. So that is the prevailing circumstance, and as far as the nexus for climate action, disaster risk reduction, and IDP protection, and also poverty reduction. And you can just imagine that really, like, disaster can happen to anyone, and it can affect anyone. For those who are non-poor, the moment that the disaster or calamity happens, then you are left with nothing. And then you become part of the statistics for poverty incidents. And so this is really what is driving why we need to really mainstream innovations on this, and part of this is through legislative actions, and also the mainstreaming of indigenous knowledge systems and practices on innovations for the RM. Thank you.
I have a follow-up question.
Of course.
You mentioned about the pushing the agenda for the economic displaced people. So is there any difference related to leadership of the government? I mean, between President Duterte and now with President Marcos Jr. So what's like?
Okay, it would be very important for us to also contextualize, yes? Because President Duterte is Mindanaoan. And when I say Mindanaoan, he knows, very much attuned and aware of the local context. And because he also has roots that are indigenous to Mindanao, wherein majority of displacement, as you've seen earlier, happens in Mindanao. And incidentally, because it's already a confluence of factors, you have armed conflict happening in Mindanao. It's something that the former President Duterte really understands because he has first-hand experience personally and also amongst his family. And so the awareness and experience alone makes a lot of difference in how this is basically, how in as far as pushing the agenda really is. And as I mentioned earlier, we came really close during the time of the former President Benigno Aquino Jr., but then it was vetoed because of the lack, among the many reasons, the lack of data that we have. Because even in disaster risk reduction, that is managed by a council. We only have the Office of Civil Defense, which is under the Department of National Defense, who's basically acting as a secretariat and spearheading the council in times of disasters or when calamities strike. So really, while we have the law, operational wise, there's a lot of overlaps in the functions and mandate amongst the government agencies at the national level. And another situation is the autonomy of the local government units. And so what we're really trying to do now, and we are already at the year 2 of the PBBM, or the President Bongbong Marcos Jr.'s administration. What we're really doing here is we're really trying to innovate in as far as the process is concerned, and we're really lobbying, following the whole of nation, the whole of society initiative, and we really are of the United Nations and other INGOs just to drive the agenda, and also the local CSOs, because of the disasters and calamities that continue to happen, especially in the Philippines and especially in the south, in the southern Philippines, in Mindanao. We really appreciate now the efforts that the government is working with the CSOs, the local and international private sector, and also with the academe. We have already a lot of state universities whose research also focus on this. And so that is something that we really welcome and we are grateful for. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to research, it's really important that what's being conducted and the output of the academia is basically, it forms part of the literature or basis, because we really need data-driven policies. And policies that are anchored on the ground. And we believe, and I really stand close, this is very close to my heart and to my advocacy, that the research of the academe and the government should really be working closely together and hand in hand and supporting one another. And that we make sure that the thesis or the other output, the policy papers that are basically produced, don't just sit there, but that they get implemented. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you for that. But you haven't, well, it's not a question, but I just think that as you are residents of,
Yes, sir.
is there any contribution from the military to this kind?
Absolutely, sir. Actually, in times of disasters and calamities in the Philippines, it's really the first responders would be from the law enforcement, particularly, well, okay. We have to contextualize this because it depends also on the magnitude of the disaster or calamity. Most of the time, the reservists would be involved in disaster response. And also alongside the other law enforcement agencies, but really it is under, because the local disaster risk reduction council is called and chaired by the local chief executive. So much of the effort and much of the decision really remains when this is localized, because there's also a threshold at the local government level. So the involvement and the deployment of the law enforcement agencies or organizations, particularly the military, whoever would be present there in that locality would become the first responders. And essentially, when we do disaster response, So you would see there, if you would search the news, you would see reservists or even officers, men and women, uniformed personnel from the military police who would be working closely hand in hand in disaster relief efforts. So that's as far as when they are called in, because the military is also part of the council. From the law enforcement, they are also part of the council, but ultimately the decision lies and stems from the local chief executive at the local levels. You're welcome.
Now, just wait for the questions. Okay, Budian, please
Okay, I would like to ask
introduce
Elizabeth.
yourself.
Oh, my name is Jan. Yeah, I would like to ask about how you sustain the technical and the administrative capacity for the mechanism, yeah, to expand the support across level of government.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that question, Monty. So really, and as far as sustaining the efforts, and again, I have to further contextualize this, madam, because it is sustainable for now. Meaning we are really maximizing partnerships. We are exploring partnerships, not just among the national government agencies, but also with the help and support of organizations such as United Nations, because for example, in the Philippines, this particular issue falls under the mandate of the UNHCR Philippines. And so they make sure that they collaborate, they engage with the government. And actually, Gustavo Gonzalez, the RCO of UN, was very glad to have partnered with the National Anti-Poverty Commission as an agency to further these efforts, because it has not been done before. And for him, it has been a long time going without really finding an agency that is strategic enough to be able to bridge national and transcend from the national, subnational to the local levels, which is very unique for our agency. And so we're able to capitalize on the basic sectors and also the government sector, because those are two parts of the commission as chaired by the President of the Republic of the Philippines. And so we are able to streamline the efforts, and with the funding and support, of course, it's complementary. There's complementation happening and going, because of course, they also have limitations in as far as the funding is concerned on a periodic level. And so what we do is we complement that. And we are also engaging. That's why in all the efforts that we do, we make sure that we engage the national, subnational, and local government units, the IDP communities themselves, the 14 basic sectors, and other COs, and also the academe that also have particular focus or that has good work on IDP protection and building a durable solution. So far that is as far as sustainability is concerned. Now, what the reason why, and this is where the institutionalization or enactment or having an IDP law is important, is because then under that legislative proposal, the funding would already be there. And so that is way to make sure that the government will be able to, at the national level down to the local level, we will be able to continue and sustain all these efforts. Because once this, the IDP action plans would be mainstreamed in the local poverty reduction action plans, then we will be sure that all local government units will be able to take care of internally displaced persons in their own localities, and also welcome or absorb IDPs from other local government units. So that is really why we are pushing and lobbying hard for the enactment of an IDP law in the Philippines.
Thank you. Okay, I would like to ask Mas Yuka. Mas Yuka, could you explain about the incentive for the innovator that you mentioned before? What kind of incentive that you want to be, or probably you recommend it for the public sector? Because sometimes we know that when we give the incentive, then there is consequences from the accountability from the Ministry of Finance, something like that. Would you mind explain to us, please? Thank you.
Nggak bisa di-unmute. Maybe ya.
Wait.
Host is now yep. Okay. Thank you, Mbak Dian, Dr. Dian. This is related to the incentive, right? For the innovator in public sector organization that I explained before. It is very hard, maybe, or very impossible to provide special incentive for the innovator in public sector organization due to regulation, bureaucrat system, and maybe there are many layers of the bureaucracy that hinder or the motivate of the innovator in sector innovation. Particularly, public agencies are pushed by central government to innovate regularly. Maybe every day is innovation. It is the program of the government of Indonesia. To provide incentives, special incentive for innovator in public sector organization in Indonesia. Maybe I could maybe because it's very hard to implement in Indonesia. Maybe first we can remake regulations for public civil servants to provide large space or maybe large opportunity for who can be innovators in public sector organization. Second, we can allocate special funding. It is very hard because it will be concerned to the Ministry of Finance. We must ask permission to Ministry of Finance to allocate special funding for innovator, especially for public servants or maybe for the whoever who are workers in the public sector organization. Third, the top leader or the leader can invite innovators in his or her organization to go around of city, maybe to go abroad, to like a bonus to enjoy to like as a tourism and blah 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 blah. It is with special funding, not with the regular funding. The fourth, we can arrange direct payment like bonus. I think it's very difficult, but it depends on the local government or the institution that has autonomy or authority to arrange finance. And the last, the government can invite innovators or whoever are innovative in special club, special dinner, and special hobbies or special meeting to provide high appreciation to the innovators. But the But my opinion, in the frame of the Indonesian regulation, we can make easier to increase rank of the employee. We know Indonesia, every officials or public officials want to increase rank of the occupation, rank of the job, or rank of the position. It's very hard. One of the ways to make more innovative is to the leader or the public official should make easier for the innovator to be increasing level. I think it's all, Pak Dian. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gila.
Okay, the source of the money that you said that the special bonus, or you can go abroad for holiday or anything. Okay, the sources.
The source of the fund.
Is it from tax?
Is it from the public tax or the government?
Yeah, that I said before, it is very hard to realize the incentive scheme like business or corporation for public organization, but it is very important to trigger to stimulate innovator from the public organization. If there are external resources, legal resources of funding that can be created by the government institution, I think it's okay. That is why we must ask permission to the Ministry of Finance Indonesia to make a special scheme or mechanism to provide special funding for innovator in Indonesia. And the last, maybe the government must protect the innovators. Why? Because innovator is close to the dangerous, is close to risky of the money, risky of the occupation, risky of the anything, including politics factor. That is why if there is no political leader doesn't protect or take care innovator under his or her supervision, it is impossible to be innovative. Besides incentive protection for who are innovative in public organization is responsible. It's responsible for the leaders in that offices. I think itu Pak Rizal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. It's very inspiring because actually the government will ask to the public, you pay the salary for the government employee, now you have to pay for her holiday. Maybe for that. So it's very controversial, but it's very interesting. Okay, so now for the next questions, if there are any questions that from the audience, I still wait for that. So maybe, but I think it is also good if we use this opportunity to ask Dr. Milo, but when you mentioned about the problem, the implementations of the policy, you said major gaps occurred in implementations of the policy, and there are three kind of weaknesses. So maybe you can describe and share with us how you solve those kind of gap implementation. Solve the gap of the implementations of the policy, as you said in your slide before.
Thank you so much for that. Again, very important question, Dr. Rizal. You want to go?
Try again.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much for that very important question, Dr. Rizal. So about the question, how do you solve Operational challenges. First and foremost, I think based on the recently concluded FOIP 2024, we have our resource person who said that we do not lack policies. In fact, we have a lot of policies, and really implementing them and making sure that the salient provisions that would address the challenges faced by internally displaced persons, especially, would be implemented. That's why we strive to be very strategic about what we do, because in some cases, for example, for the fisherfolk communities, and they are especially vulnerable because they live in the coastal areas, yeah, and because of the variable hazards. We've got typhoons, got flooding, got storm surge. So what we're trying to do is really not entertain any revisions in, for example, the fisheries code, but instead to make sure that the salient provision, particularly on settlement, because it is part of the law, and that has yet to be realized. So we have to be very careful in making sure that whatever intervention we propose will not do more harm than good. So we really make sure that first and foremost, we have very exhaustive consultations. We hold consultations not just at the national level, but also at the subnational and at the local levels. And we make sure that the key stakeholders, those who would be affected by a change in policy or a revision in a policy or a new policy, would be consulted, and that they are basically able to also share their position, whether they agree or disagree. And at the end of it all, really build consensus, just to make sure that we know that whatever intervention would be put in place would be for the benefit of all, and especially the poorest and marginalized sectors in the community. Second is really streamlining the mandate and focus of agencies, especially at the national government, is really important. That's why there are proposals, there are legislative proposals calling for the creation of a Department of Disaster Management or something, and instead of the mandate being shouldered primarily by the Office of Civil Defense, which is just a coordinating council, or the NDRRMC. Because we feel that first, of course, if we will be able to really establish one agency or a key agency who would focus on DRR, and also building climate resilience, then we would be able to respond more efficiently, more effectively, and we would be able to operate on a more sustainable manner. And also, we would be able to enforce penalties, because at this point, that's still lacking. And so with an agency or a primary government institution that would focus on this, then it would be more sustainable. But as it stands, there are legislative proposals being tackled at the Congress, but it has not been approved or it has not been enacted. Again, the third one is on solving these overlaps. Really, as mentioned by our colleague Yuka, political will is really important. Good governance is very important. An executive order may be institutionalized. The president can have an executive order really clearly issuing a clear delineation of the mandate. And if not, really having or passing a legislation or even just as simple as making it as a legislative priority agenda of the president being tackled at the PLO, that is also part of it. So all this, if we can really put this into play, I can see that that would somehow be a step closer to resolving the key operational gaps in the efficient implementation and operationalization of the policies or the laws that we have. Sir Rizal. You're welcome.
Yeah, for the audience, you can identify and give the questions.
Yeah, for the audience, you can ask the questions by raising your hands, and bear with me. You can ask the questions in Indonesian, and we will translate into English. And we would like to address many questions that you have. You can ask that in Indonesia also. It is very interesting, when we got the turbulence in Pamengpeuk in West Java. I was there. The problem is that we have the children and mothers, yeah, women and children that have to be in the house because the fathers, the male will be in the ocean, for fixing the building and everything, and the mothers idols in the village. Okay, so the researcher from our center try to give train them how to make something and making money, and we also provide with food for children. So children and female and women also have a very high effect in the those kind of crisis. So I think it is also important for innovations, not only in the for the future, but also for the kind of the crisis like this. So is there any question from the Zoom? Yeah. And when I get the in the Pamengpeuk there, in the place in the West Java, the maybe in Philippines there's a church, but in Indonesia there's a masjid and mosque that have roles. The contribution is very high. People go to the masjid and mosque to get the help from others. So and also the communications, electricity, the water, is come from the masjid. So and also from the military, because the government sometimes is kind of late for this kind of the response is not very fast as like in the masjid and the military from the army in Indonesia. So it is very also interesting when you said that every Filipino should be entrepreneurs. So what is the relation with this kind of IDP?
Thank you so much for the very interesting question and very important question as well, Dr. Rizal. So let's further contextualize it on the question: why is having an entrepreneurial mindset important for this situation? That's why we were proposing Project Lisa. Okay, when displacement happens, Sir Rizal, it happens in a way that, yes, we know that there is a disaster or calamity that's happening, but we are not aware that they would be taken in, on that they would be displaced, and that they would go to a specific local government unit. And so what happens is, most of the time they stay in evacuation centers. And especially if it happens for a long time, then you can just imagine the livelihood would not be available. Other sources of living would not be available. Even the basic necessities would not even be provided. So it's really important to build a capacity of at the individual level or a household level, since most of the time, really, in our locality, really the family is the smallest unit, yeah. As a subset of the village, or the barangay, as we call it, that we build the capacity of this of the internally displaced persons, and especially in terms of sources of employment, livelihood. It would be very, very difficult for internally displaced persons to obtain or even save their identification documents. And so if you would be unable to provide identification, then it would be especially hard for you to find a job. If you would not be able to present any documentation, any credentials, then most of the time, really the highest and the most effective and the easiest way is to start a business. And for the local government and also for the national government, we have the Department of Labor and Employment and also the Department of Social Welfare and Development. DSWD, they basically have SLP, Sustainable Livelihood Program, and they basically introduce projects like a small and medium scale. They also provide initial capital or funding, just so the family, particularly women, would be able to do a small enterprise and start a business. Because really, building a house is capital intensive. And if the government, if the people, if the IDPs would just rely on the government, chances are it would come in either really late or if not too late, or the people will just be waiting. And really, it is not to the best interest and it's not a good policy for people to become dependent on the government. And so they should build, and this is really where the complementation and facilitating and building the capacity is important. Again, we also have the DOLE, Department of Livelihood and Employment, who's also chipping in and making sure that there would be some livelihood opportunities that would be made available. And all of this would essentially be contributory and very useful if we at the local level, at an individual level, would be every Filipino. Yeah, that's what I mean. At the individual level, if we would be able to have a mindset that of an entrepreneur, because then we will be able to also find ways on what are our capacities, what we can do based on our abilities, what would be the resources around us that we can basically have, as a starting point, just to have livelihood and just to survive in times of disasters and calamities. So that's really where I see the importance and the critical value of having an entrepreneurial mindset, especially for IDPs. I'll share with you something. We have, but this is in the case of Marawi. When the Marawi siege happened, and majority of the people, if at all, if not all of them, were displaced, the Maguindanauans are natural business people. And so it is already embedded in them. However, not all of the, because Marawi is a melting pot of the Muslims and Christians and other people of different faith. And so what happened was, of course, there was already that knowledge transfer, that entrepreneurial spirit, that mindset has somehow been inspired or shared, or that knowledge has been shared or transferred to the other non-Muslim residents of Marawi. And so because of that, they were able to see, okay, how did they start it? How did they do it? And so really, you need a community or just an individual to have that mindset that can inspire others, to also have that mindset, an entrepreneurial mindset that would somehow help you build your capacity as a person and also help your family. And it basically trickles down to the communities. You're welcome.
So I think the time is also really, I think not even though that you would like to get
Forget to eat. Okay, time is very limited. It's only 1 more minute if there is a question from the Zoom or from the audience here. Because I think about the entrepreneurial mindset, we should have a differentiation between entrepreneur, because the entrepreneur selling something, making something for profit, yeah, for the cash flow, and this one is for self-spending. So this kind of, but for the future, I think those kind of mindset is also helpful. but in the crisis moment times, should be have the ability to sufficient to self-sufficient for self, for children, for food, for water, shelter. Okay, I think the time is already there. If there is no questions, okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think the Q&A sessions. Okay, wait, already up. But before that, I would like to have photo sessions in the Zoom. I hope all of you open the camera so we can have a cheerful face. Who get that? The screen should. Okay. Wait, I will. No problems. I have a multitasking. It's okay. 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 Wait. Here, gallery, and then screenshot. Okay. Okay. There are four pages of this. Okay, one. Wait, open your camera still. One and wait. Two. Wait. Two. Okay. Wait. And wait. Searchy. Wait. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the end of our seminar, I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to all of you for your participation and engagement, especially for our speaker, Pak Yuka and Ibu Dr. Milo, Elizabeth Milo. I would also like to express my gratitude to Ibu Yanuar Farida Wismayanti, now maybe in the Zoom, for her inspiring opening remarks, which set the tone of our discussions. Before we close, I think I would like to give a poet. Okay, pantun ya. It is the 20th of September, the day that we remember. Cakep dong. Innovation is the mantra rolling for a prosperous and beautiful living. Thank you very much. So thank you once again for being here. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful day. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Kata Pak Rizal.
Terima kasih.